Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Just want to say welcome to all the new people that have found this channel. We're getting a bunch of new subscribers, and if you are new and haven't subscribed yet, please do and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Let's keep building this massive community. We're going to get started with the Rabbitohs and the Raiders in this update. I actually missed them in my my trials update a couple of videos back. So we'll jump in and really focus on the Rabbitohs in this one, and especially for that trial. Obviously, they play the Dragons who struggled a lot, and someone like Latrell did really well in that. And you can see currently someone that's priced at 37, but has many years where he's averaged a lot better than that. You look back at 2019 and that back end, especially from round 16, and absolutely killed it. And that's obviously in the centres, and he has a little bit more of an opportunity playing at the fullback position. If we look back to parts of last year, had a really nice run between round 4 and round 6, and then a little bit of a decent run from round 12 to 15 there. And this is what you can expect from someone like Latrell. He had an amazing first half, scoring 50 in that first half before getting put off the field, and I'd be expecting something similar to that. So priced at 37, you can expect a bunch of games where he gets 25 to 30, and then a bunch of games where he gets 50, 60 plus. So we've already spoke about him before. His meters gained is one of the lowest for a normal fullback, but his attacking stats and attacking skills are so high that he makes up for that, and with great passing. And in a team like the Rabbitohs, who are going to do very well, I see him as someone that's going to be a pretty decent option, hopefully averaging closer to 45, possibly even closer to 50, and making him one of the top sort of 6 to 7 fullbacks. And you can get him at a cut price, which is really cool. Obviously, don't take too much from what they did against the Dragons, because the Dragons were really bad. Sorry for all the Dragons supporters out there, but looks like it's going to be a lean year for you guys. Heading to the rest of the lineup, this back line is going to be pretty solid. You have someone like Jackson Paulo, who might be pushing for a wing spot, but I'd say Johnson and Mansour have this spot definitely for now, and then Paulo would come in with any injuries following that. But someone like Dane Gagai could be a slightly interesting option, which I know a few people have spoken about. But at 517k, he's just a bit of an awkward price for these centres, being priced at 39. As a keeper in the centres, you'd want definitely over 40, but looking closer to 45. He does have the dual position, which is really cool. But as we said, in a team that's going to do really well this year, he should be doing well. And you can see from round 8 onwards last year, he did score a bunch of tries across the wing and the centre position. And you can see that his lowest score was 32 over that period, and then scored really well in the final series, and then also in Origin, where he's always a gun. So I can see Gagai being one of the top sort of 5 to 7 centres this year, getting closer to a 45 average. So if he's someone that you like as a player, I'd suggest that he could be a decent option for anyone's side. But yeah, very much similar to someone like Campbell Graham. We spoke about him in the guns category, but he's someone that's probably slightly less consistent compared to Gagai, but he can have stretches like the back end of last year when the Rabbitohs were firing, where he had a low score of 40 in that back end. So both really cool, and you can understand that in a Rabbitohs team that would be looking to be in the top 4 again and be a really strong side, they're going to do really well in attack, especially across the start of this season, is what you'd be looking for with these types of guys. So you're not looking to rage trade anyone, but those two are going to score really well. 40 plus is what you're looking at with those guys. If you like them and you're interested in some Rabbitohs players, then they're going to be good options. Mansour I'd probably leave at this stage, just given the fact they've got a bunch of guys through the middle here with Gagai, Graham, and then Johnson, who do a lot of work out of the red zone. Mansour will do similar to what he normally does, but I just don't see him in the Rabbitohs side doing any better than what he would have in a Penrith side, who obviously scored a lot of tries last year. So no real upside with Mansour. Cody Walker, again, going to be that hit and miss player in terms of he might get a 30 or 40 one week and then get you an 80. So, but with him already being priced fairly high, I don't see a lot of upside with someone like Cody Walker at 646. He's priced over 50 average, just under 50. Sorry, at 48. So yeah, you can have a look at a bunch of his scores. He gets the 35 to 40, even with a try in some of them, and then has stints where he goes really well at a 96 to finish when he scores a bunch of tries. And I'd expect he scores a similar amount to last year, given the fact that he had 5, 8, 10 yeah, so 10 tries for the season. I don't see a lot of upside with him. Somewhere averaging around 50 like he did this year. And that's going to be very similar to someone like Adam Reynolds, who also averaged a very similar amount at six. Yes, price is 698, just under that 50 average, just over that 50 average again. I don't see the upside. Did really well in a team, kicked a lot of goals in a good team, so he's just under that upper echelon tier with the halves. He's always been priced around that 50 mark, so nothing too much to say. Tommy Burgess looks like he's really stepping up now and becoming the dominant front rower in this side, and I think he's going to score well in fantasy, but I don't see him improving too much on what he did last year. Had a really nice trial game, but nothing too much to write home about. Damien Cook, I do think he's going to be one of the top guns this year, and being priced at 63 already, a really good captaincy option for those that are possibly not looking to go for Cleary. My only issue with him is the fact that when they play some of the lesser teams, like a Dragons, he won't have to do the tackling that he would against a good team. So I'd expect Cook to score better against the better teams and not as good against the easier teams. Just with the fact they've got so many weapons, on either side of the park. You get it to the halves and get it out to the centres there in Gagai and Graham, who are really strong, and Mitchell there, who can do the work. So I don't see Cook having to do as much in those games. So I think he might be a little bit inconsistent. So I'd see scores of 70 to 80 against some of the better teams, and maybe like a just standard 50 with 40 tackles and 80 metres out of dummy half with a couple of tackle busts. So I'm slightly worried about that. The trial is nothing to worry about in terms of him not scoring too well. I wouldn't even factor that in, just for the fact they put so many points on and he only played the first half. But yeah, something to think about with him. Toll is not going to be an option. Jaden Stewart I don't see as an option. Already had his breakout year last year. Colin Matangi managed to play 65 minutes for not a crazy amount of base stats. He did score a try at the end, but again, it's against the Dragons, and it wasn't too hard of a try to score. With Colo, I see him, if he's on the bench, you're not picking him, but there's a good chance that Host takes that spot. Host wasn't anything to write home about. His fantasy scores weren't great. He's never really been relevant apart from his rookie year. And then we'll look at Cam Murray. Murray's just going to be a solid 50-odd point scorer in your team with dual position. So a really good option if you're hoping for someone with a little bit more stability in your side. I see him as in the Jake Trbojevic mold. Just plays your big minutes, scores you well. But not too much to talk about him further. Jair I don't see as being an option at all. He's going to have limited minutes off the bench and just doesn't look the same as he did a few years ago, which you've already spoken about. Liam Knight, not much to speak about him. He annoyed us last year. And you should see Benji on the bench there as their utility. I think will be smart. And moving on to the rest of the players there, you've got guys like Mark Nichols, who would be stiff to miss out on a game. I think he's played really well last year and should get a spot somewhere on the bench. I see him getting a spot over a Kolomatangi or a Host, or even a Liam Knight. I think that he did really well in that position. Braden Burns is some cover in the backs. Stephen Masters as well. Jackson Paulo. So Paddy Mago. Yeah, all guys that could play a part at some point in the year, but none of them would be really fantasy relevant at this stage. We'll move on to the Raiders. Very interesting team with not a lot of fantasy options, in my personal opinion. Nickel Clockstad is someone that does okay, but he's not in the top echelon. We've already spoken about Simonson. I don't see him as being a good option. Scored 1 fantasy point in his half of footy. Tomoko should only get a few weeks, but if you think he's going to get some time across the season, there's a chance that Croker gets injured again. Scott does. He's going to be first off the mark, and if he's someone you think is going to score well, then he could be an alright option in the first few rounds. Rapana is going to do his job. Whiten, we've spoken about, it's going to be up and down. He's already priced fairly high. George Williams, fairly similar, had a good year last year, so he's priced accordingly. Papali, I see doing very much similar to what he did, and he's probably just under the top tier guns in the front row mid position. Hodgson, a couple of try assists on the weekend, and still didn't score as well. As I said, he's a great player, but not as good in fantasy, and at an awkward price. That I think there's just so many better options in the hooking position. You can think of guys like Turpin, McCulloch, these type of guys, as well as Brayley, Little, Watson, and then you can go up to the big dogs in someone like Cook or Appy, for example. Dunamis Louis, not something you want to be thinking about. Hudson Young was a really interesting one. He looked really strong on the weekend, and priced at $5.99. I'd expect him to keep that edge position. And you can see the games where he did play second row earlier on in the season, he did get the 80 minutes, but some of his scores were really all over the shop. So no attacking stats, but you've got a 53 in a 90-minute game, 42 in 80, 30 in 80, 32 in 80, 57 in an 80-minute role, and that's with 49 tackles. So he's not someone that I see that has major upside in this side. Priced at 45 already, I just don't see it. Like, you look at those scores, and most of them are under 45 anyway. He's just got a bunch of high scores, and he has an 86 in one of the games off the interchange, playing through the middle was more his role come the back end of the season. So yeah, he's not someone that I'd be tempted to bring into my side at this stage. Then we've got some other players like Whitehead, who were great in the past but not anymore. Tarpany's a really interesting one. He looked great as well, but he always looks great. Like, I feel like the last few years he's always looked good. He just gets his standard sort of 50 to 60 minutes and does his job. You know, he got 65 minutes, 45, 80 minutes for 47 with a try and a try save. Has these random games where he goes big and gets a couple of 60s, but the majority of the time he's getting somewhere in the 40s, and priced at 49, I just don't think he's going to be a keeper. He's just going to play the same role as he did last year. Tom Starling, we need him to get a starting spot for him to be relevant again, but it'd be nice if he drops some price on the bench and then he gets a spot. Ryan James looked good on the weekend. But again, I don't think he's going to get the minutes for him to be worth it at any stage. And then we move on to guys in the others section. So you've got Horsburgh, who's going to be good if he gets a big minute role, but let's hope that he's off the bench for a bit, and maybe you can bring him back in later. Caleb Aikens come over from the Panthers, and he's a backup option, but he's not someone that's good at fantasy anyway. Croker will be back. He's priced fairly low, so he might be an interesting one as like a fallen gun and moneymaker to bring in at some point of the year. Obviously, if he's past his injury, but priced at 30, that's really low for someone who's been a keeper in the past. So he didn't score many tries at all last year. You look at, he's only got 3 there in the first part of the season, then 2 at the end. So 5 tries for a centre that's going to be in a good team that kicks goals, I feel like is very low compared to where he's at. But he's obviously getting older in age and shouldn't score as good as he did when he was a bit younger. The other guys there, we've got Sam Williams, who could play if there's injuries, and he does score fairly well when he comes in, and especially if he takes over from George Williams, he'd run the side more than what Whiten would. Brighton, Sutton, these kind of guys. But Havili, all guys that could play a role at some point. But in terms of their forwards, you'd expect Hudson Young to play close to 80 minutes. Tarpany plays his 50 to 60. Whitehead plays his 80. And then you got the 8 and 10 in Louis and Papali to do their thing. I don't see these guys on the bench having much of a role in fantasy. So don't feel like there's a lot to talk about further on the Raiders. But there you go, guys. That's just a quick update on those guys. I just wanted to get all of these episodes out to make sure you've got all the information possible come round 1. I know that some of this stuff is doubling up, but there's a bunch of guys that subscribe, like new subscribers and guys that wouldn't have seen this. So we need to get that kind of information out as well to make sure everyone's across it. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoy this one, and good luck with your teams coming into round 1. See ya.